find, you find it's a lot easier to move around as a team and find those choke points and find those battle areas.
Now, I've had the chance to play this game, but one of the things I noticed right off was you kind of did some things with the weapons and the weapon switching. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we optimized the control scheme actually in both multiplayer and the primary campaign. So now Y is a quick weapon swap, primary, secondary, just hit Y, boom, boom, switch back and forth. It really sped up the gameplay. And we've also gotten rid of all the D-pad functionality, moved the grenades to the left bumper. So now you can tap it, quick grenade throw while you're on the run.
But I can still hold it down and get the angle.
Yeah, if you want that traditional trajectory, the aiming arc, you
Yep.
can hold on to it, and you can always put it away, too. If you pulled it out and you want to put it away, no problem.
Great, that sounds great. Now listen, we're going to switch gears, so to speak, and go behind the scenes of the art direction in the Gears of War franchise. Tina caught up with art director Chris Pern to discuss the franchise, the visual identity, and how Judgment fits in.
Chris, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to see differently in the art direction from Judgment as we've seen in Gears 1, 2, and 3.
I think for Judgment, we go back to some of the darker Gears. We worked hard to kind of capture the tone of the original, make it a little more moody, things like that. Players, as they move through the environments, they should see kind of mini stories as they move throughout. Something happened in this environment. We kind of wanted to make it a place rather than just a blank environment that you have a battle in, right? There's handprints on the wall and blood trails that lead somewhere. What is this place? What happened here before you got there? You know, those type of things.
The characters, Baird and Cole, you got to go back and make them younger. What was that process like? Was that fun?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. We iterated on those designs for a while. Some of them came easy, some of them were harder. Baird, of course, was a lieutenant before he got bumped down to private, and it was natural for us to kind of take him and clean him up. We upgraded his armor. He's got officer insignia on his armor and things like that. Cole was the same. We took Cole. We said, what would Cole look like during the thrashball days, right? Because he's younger and it's almost a thrashball. So he's more athletic. He's leaner. His face is younger. He's got more hair. You know, stuff like that. It was kind of fun to evolve those guys. And you know, we wanted this cool, like Hulk out kind of Locust. And the Razer was fun. You know, he's like this little wimpy, skinny guy that comes out with a weapon, and you kind of fire him. And as he takes damage, he just gets pissed off, and he just starts to flush red, and spikes come out, and he gets nuts. And it was great to develop that character.
And beyond just the artistic stuff, but there's also all the technical aspects of it. The engines change, different animators come in and out. How do you work as an artist with the tech, and does it evolve with the engine?
Right, so it kind of evolves hand in hand. We take a look at what we want to do for the game, and we say, hey, you know, we want a darker, moodier game. What can we do with lighting? What can we do with bloom to give it maybe a more dreamy feel to some aspects of it? We want a lot of fire. How can we enhance flame lighting and flickering lights and things like that? We push the tech to make the art look better. How can we evolve our characters? What can we do to make them look better, make the skins higher resolution, make the shaders better, things like that, that just add to a more robust and immersive experience for the player.
So it's sort of being in charge of the art direction. I feel like it would be difficult because an artist, I'm sure you want to be hands-on with stuff because you know what you have up here, but how hard is it to pass that on to...
Yeah, it's really hard.
Like...
Yeah, it's super hard. I'm not only, you know, am I high-level art direction now, but it's I'm a control freak to a certain extent, right? I like what I like, and it's frustrating sometimes for the guys, and sometimes I don't know what I want, right? I mean, an art director doesn't necessarily have all the answers. So sometimes, you know, I get a bad rap, I'm sure, and people are like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing, and stuff, but it just takes a while to try and you know, craft that stuff and mold it into something, make something from nothing, basically.
You've been here since the beginning of the franchise, so you were the big influence in what these characters, these larger-than-life characters would be. Where did you get that from? That was, you know, space barbarians, right? It was, you know, the hardcore kind of Conan and things like that. I was really into that stuff. And it just kind of happened. We were like, hey, let's get these huge dudes and these big creatures, but we'll give them guns instead of swords, and we'll see what happens, you know? And it worked out well. Are there specific design principles that you hand down to them? Like, look, the characters, the weapons, everything has to fall within these design principles? You know, we set up style guides. The overall description was the world is heavy. Gears is a heavy and brutal game. So everything we put on the characters was meant to convey that
that weight in the world. We had shoulder pads that flopped around when they hit cover, they grunt and they slam into it and dust flies out, stuff like that.
Because it's the emotion of those guys. How hard is it to get the emotion across?
That's really hard, you know, an inanimate character to get that emotion. In some aspects we did it well, some we didn't, and it all comes down to lighting and mood and facial animation and things like that, and we're getting better at it.
Chris Perna, director of art for the entire Epics, for the entire Gears of War series. Wow, that man has really got his fingerprints all over it. What's it like to work with him?
Yeah, he really does have his fingerprints and his influence on the whole series. I was watching the Twitter feed at the bottom of the monitor there as it was going on, and someone said, you know, he's one of the best in the business, and in my opinion, he is the best in the business. I mean, he defines what an art director is, and really creates just a beautiful game.
Yeah, it's really great to work with him and his entire team, and kind of, you know, he sets the bar high and is infectious, and so it's really been a pleasure to work with him. But we also have to call out, you know, PCF. We're going for this new, you know, we've gone back before Gears of War 1 where everything is freshly destroyed and still on fire, so it's a really evolutionary visual ID for the franchise, and so it's, you know, Perna certainly has been instrumental in that, and PCF in collaboration as well, so it's been a great
lot going on there. You mentioned Twitter. What do you say we go to Twitter now? We're going to turn the show over to you, the community. We've been firing off questions for both on the Gears Judgment hashtag. If you have a question, you just need to use that hashtag. Why don't we bring up the first question right now? We'll get right to it. So with the success of the franchise, did you find it difficult creating a story or a prequel that could hold its own? From 00 Sleven. Guys?
I saw this come up while we were in the green room waiting for the show. You know, it really freed us to be able to go do a prequel. So, you know, I wouldn't say it was constraining or tough or difficult. We were really free to kind of go off and really try a lot of new things, and I think that's why Judgment does feel so fresh and does feel so new. We didn't hold ourselves in a box.
Right.
That maybe, you know, may have been the case with the original trilogy.
Great. Let's go on to question number 2. Let's bring that up right now on the screen. And we've got any new type of weapons. I mean, come on. That's what every Gears fan wants to know.
Yeah, absolutely. As you'd expect in the new Gears of War product, lots of new characters, lots of new enemies, and lots of new weapons as well. So we have, you know, we have a couple of accuracy-based weapons, some of which the Locusts have commandeered and modified to be their own. We have former UIR weapons, like the Bushka, which fires grenades, and we have a new stim gas and spotting grenades as well. So lots new to be had in the weapons department.
A lot of different stuff going on there. All right, next question. Let's bring that up on Twitter. Make sure you use the hashtag Gears Judgment. Is there any new multiplayer modes for Gears Judgment?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we have Overrun mode is the most exciting new mode that we've added. It's a 5-on-5 attack defend class-based multiplayer mode, just super fun, way exciting. We just talked about Domination, that's brand new. Free-for-all mode, another brand new mode that we brought into Gears. You know, it's just sort of deathmatch, everyone on their own. Yep. So a ton of new stuff in the multiplayer.
All right, we've got time for one more question. We'll be taking them later on in the show, but right now let's turn it back over under the Gears Judgment hashtag. This question is, let's go ahead and bring that up here. Live TV, you never know what's going to happen.
It's coming, I can feel it.
All right, here it is. Why did you choose to have loadout systems for multiplayer? Great question.
It is a good question.
Yeah, I think it's all about flexibility. I mean, giving players, this is another big, you know, one of the recurring themes of this project is cramming as much in as we could that the community desired. And this is certainly one of the things that immediately fell out of that we prototyped in early pre-production and knew was compelling is, you know, this wider variety of choices by offering a loadout system.
Great, well there you go. Thanks everyone for your questions. Keep them coming using the hashtag Gears Judgment on Twitter. We'll ask more community questions, your questions, later on in the show. Now, but for now, the live audience has selected, let's take a look here, Dynamic Defense to showcase next. And following that will be our final world premiere unveil of Survival Mode. So let's bring up Dynamic Defense right here in the studio for the folks at home. What are we seeing here? Here's the gameplay. Why don't you guys describe what we're taking a look at?
Yeah, so one of the big fan favorites from previous Gears of War titles was this idea of a defense scenario. And so what we've done is no longer, you know, yes, part of the campaign you're charging through and conquering, but part of the campaign also, the Locusts are banging on the doors and they're encroaching upon you, and it's up for you to defend yourself. So we've added, as you can see, they're placing these new gameplay mechanic, which is a placeable sentry, and we have a couple of different types of sentries that have different ammunition types. And so it's up to you to defend your position within the map, and as the Locusts are coming upon you, to actually place the sentry, repair it, feed it as you need to, and ultimately survive so that you can continue.
You're gonna end up having to defend against multiple waves of locusts. They're gonna kind of attack you in these waves, and you're gonna get a little break. You're gonna have time to kind of reset your defenses, think about your strategy in between those different waves, which really adds a nice element of strategy to it.
So this is kind of a tower defense type thing in the campaign where you stop down and kind of have to defend this. One thing is I noticed here is that, you know, as a player, you can pretty much set down the turrets anywhere. How does that affect the spawning system and the gameplay?
Yeah, that plays really well into our new dynamic spawn system, where if you push the sentries forward, you know, the spawn system, it might react to you and spawn different types of enemies and flank you. And if you stay back and try to hunker down, they might come at you with a full frontal assault. So lots of variation and lots of strategy to be had with this new gameplay mechanic.
I want to talk a little bit about the turrets that we're seeing us lay down here. What are the different types of turrets we have?
Well, first of all, you'll notice you have to manage them. They run out of ammo.
Yeah.
So you need to go up and reload them. Yeah, you have to defend them because the Locust will try to destroy them. But you have a couple of different types. So you have a Nasher type, which is a shotgun type of a sentry, so it's going to blast a little bit of a wider radius. And then you have the assault rifle sentry, which has a longer range. It'll give a good string of bullets on those enemies, but it'll run out of ammo a little bit quicker as well.
There you go. That's dynamic defense. All right. Now we get to the answer of the most asked answer and question for the Gears of War Judgment. And I got to ask this. What did you guys do to my Horde mode? What the hell happened? Survival is the answer. And we're going to have to take a look at this right now.
Gears has always been a cooperative game at its core. I mean, even our campaign was designed around cooperative play.
The number one question I get is Horde mode coming back? I get that every single day on Twitter, so I couldn't wait to actually talk about survival. The base goal of it is you are defending a series of objectives, playing as the cog, and you get to use the classes that we have in Overrun. So you have the engineer, you have the soldier, you have the scout, you have the medic. It's all about teamwork of what classes you're going to pick and use their special abilities to help survive 10 waves of enemies.
It shares the same kind of like gameplay mechanics as Overrun. And so there's 3 objectives, a primary, a secondary, and the third one being the generator, right, or the main objective. The battlefield is single directional, so you start defending the first one, and then when that falls, you fall back to the second one, and when that falls, you fall back to the final generator.
In Horde, we had 50 waves was the goal to survive, and so you might hear 10 waves and go, wow, that's short. It is 10 crazy intense waves, and it's actually really hard to survive those 10 waves.
We actually had to bring in QA to ensure that we weren't going to ship a multiplayer game mode that it was impossible to beat on the highest difficulty level. Going all the way to hardcore or insane is definitely going to be a challenge for any co-op group who wants to try to tackle it.
I think the key abilities that you're going to see, if they're used well, give you a big, big advantage.
If you have an engineer who's repairing a fence and the Locust forces are incoming, there's no way he's going to be able to repair that fence. And so you've got this moment where all of the classes are doing their thing, and it's all to protect the one engineer who is staying alive and not slowing down and not reloading and doing all this to save that one barrier that's protecting your objective.
It's different every time. You know, it's going to be a different experience every single time using the smart spawn system. As you're changing and trying to figure out the best way to beat it, the game is changing on you, and so you're constantly having to adapt and figure out, oh man, we thought this was going to work, but now that it's different because, you know, we're facing different enemies. How are we gonna team up and actually beat it this time?
There's a lot of just little ways that they can work together and complement each other that make that so much more valuable than, hey, everybody just runs in with their Lancer and shoots stuff. The 10 waves, the 3 objectives, it all kind of worked out to be kind of that magic sweet spot where the intensity level was just right, the length of experience was just right, the number of people involved was just right, and it just turns into this great experience.